everyone, I am your average gamer. Thank you for watching. Let's get into the video. Warhammer 40K Chaos Gate Dameonhunters Duty Eternal. Very long name for an excellent game. I am your average gamer. Thank you for joining me in this after playthrough review. I'm just going to talk briefly about this game and my experience with my playthrough. If you want to watch the playthrough and see the gameplay yourself, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and watch the videos for yourself. Alright, so what is this game? It is a turn-based tactical game where you move your units around a grid-based map and take turns against the enemy. The game takes place in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, but the great thing about it is it's not super lore heavy, and you can follow the story even if you're not deeply versed in the Warhammer lore. Alright, let's get into a few pros and cons, and then we'll talk about the Duty Eternal DLC. First for the pros, the voice acting. The voice acting in this game is actually very good. I would even go as far as to say excellent. It is done very well. The gameplay itself, I highly enjoyed it. I played the entire game on the Ruthless difficulty and was able to play through from the beginning to the end. And I had my struggles, I had my challenges, I had times where I had to struggle, but that helps keep the gameplay fresh and interesting. The customization, you have a squad of knights that you get to customize, I would say fully, but there's a lot of things you can customize. So you can customize their look, you can customize their loadout, their armor, their weapons, their abilities. They level up as you play through the game, and you just get to customize a lot of things. That is one very big positive of this game, is that there are multiple different types of knights you can use, and you can play mostly with a range focus, mostly with a melee focus. You can play with their abilities, you can play a mix of all of them. You can use every type of knight, you can focus on just one type of knight, you can make multiple different squads. It's very highly customizable depending on how you like to play. And then the story. I think the story is good. It's a good story without too much depth to be too complicated for players who aren't familiar with the Chaos Gate or Warhammer universe in general. I think it hits a pretty good mark, where it's complicated enough to be enjoyable, but not too complicated to be hard to understand. Alright, let's get into a few of the cons. I had a couple bugs during my playthrough, not very many, but there was one or two times where one of my knights became stuck when they shouldn't have been and were unable to move. And there was one instance where I kept trying to toss an enemy off the edge, and then he would just kind of teleport randomly back to his starting location. I think it was just the particulars of that map. He was not able to fall off the edge there, but it was a little bit buggy how that worked out. The game is not fully voiced. The voice acting that is in the game is excellent, and I only wish they had fully voiced all of the game. They did mostly, and in all the cutscenes and all the important parts. There's only, just during the conversations with your teammates on board your ship, that they only voice like one line of a paragraph when you're talking to them. So if you want to get the entire story, you'll have to read through the rest of what they are saying. But other than those sections that are not fully voiced, the rest of the game is voiced and done very well. For the last con, the game can get a little repetitive. When you play the same missions multiple times in a row, you'll begin to see the sameness, and you'll play on the same map multiple times. but that doesn't usually become an issue until the second half of the game, after you've played on most of the planets and seen most of the maps and what mission types the game has to offer. Alright, now let's get into the DLC. The first thing about the DLC is it helps with that repetitive issue. I think that is the main purpose of this DLC, is to help alleviate some of the repetitive nature of the mission design. So the DLC is not necessary to enjoy the game. You can play through the entire game without having the Duty Eternal DLC. And you can still get the full story, and you can still enjoy the game with everything I've mentioned above. But when you do purchase the DLC, you get a variety of different things that help your gameplay to be less repetitive and more enjoyable as you go through the game. So let's just go through a few of those things. You get new events, so there are extra events that can occur randomly as you travel through the galaxy, and you just have some extra options that can occur. You get access to a Gladius frigate. The Gladius frigate, I was not able to access it until farther along into the game than I would have wished, and it didn't impact my gameplay very much, not as much as I thought it would. It was convenient to get 2 more missions and send your knights out to other planets that you couldn't reach, but I found there was many times where it wasn't able to reach the missions either, and sometimes your knights were wounded when they wouldn't have been if you would have played the mission on your own. So it was nice, it helped you get extra servitors and some extra requisition if you needed it, but it wasn't as impactful as I thought it would have been. You also get access to a Tech Marine and a Dreadnought to add to your squads. The Tech Marine is a great unit. He has a lot of variety, and he was fun to play around with. I do think he was a little underpowered, though. Didn't have quite as much impact on your squad as some of the other knights. So, although I enjoyed playing with the Tech Marine, I feel like they maybe should consider buffing his abilities just a little bit. The Dreadnought, on the other hand, was a lot of fun to play with. I played with a ranged Dreadnought, but there were also other ways you could have upgraded him. You could have been fully melee, you could have had a mix of melee and ranged. You can focus on charging in and doing single target damage. You could do fire support, area of effect damage. There are a lot of ways you could play around with the Dreadnought, and he was very fun. Looked very cool, sounded very cool, and was very enjoyable on the missions where you were able to use him. But you were not able to use him on every mission. You were only able to bring him along on the Technophage missions. And that brings me to the next point, the Technophage missions themselves. The Technophage missions add quite a bit to the game. Some people may not like them, some people probably like them a lot. They are a lot more difficult than the normal missions. They basically double the amount of enemies you're fighting. And in my experience, they can as much as triple the difficulty of the given mission. It is useful to have the Dreadnought to assist with that, to alleviate some of that difficulty, but for a lot of the game, in the beginning, you run into a lot of Technophage missions, and you do not have access to your Dreadnought. And those missions were very difficult. For me, I actually enjoyed it, because it made me think and have to strategize more and pay more attention to my squads. But for a new player or someone who doesn't want that level of difficulty, the Technophage missions might do more to get in the way and make your playthrough possibly not quite as enjoyable, depending on the type of player you are. What else? I think I've talked about most everything I wanted to talk about. Once again, I'll just say that I really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed my playthrough. thank you to everyone who watched and subscribed to my channel. And the comments, they were fun to read as I went through. And that is my review for Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Dameonhunters Duty Eternal. You get a Dreadnought. Dreadnought. Thank you all again, and as always, have a good day.